Hello YouTube, this is Orock with Ming Tech Media and I'm back at you with yet another LeetCode video. Today we're going to look at the merge sorted array problem number 88 on LeetCode. It's classified as an easy, so I'm going to just take you through my intuition and how I would solve this problem. And I'm going to do my solution in Java. So let's get right into it. So for me, let's just look at this problem. Let's read this problem out together. So it says, given two sorted integer arrays, nums1 and nums2, merge nums2 into nums1 as one sorted array. So basically you're taking two sorted arrays and you're merging them, right? So the number of elements initialized, and these are key parts right here, these little bullet points, because I was kind of confused about some things until I read them. So this one says the number of elements initialized in nums1 and nums2 are m and n respectively. So m plus n, right? So you may also assume that nums1 has enough space. Key, this is very, very key. You must also assume that nums1 has enough space size that is equals to m plus n to hold additional elements from nums2. So basically what they're saying is, whatever the elements are in nums1, there's going to be additional space. There's going to be additional space which can hold the values of nums2. That's very key to understand because that's going to factor into how we solve this problem, right? So basically what I did, and it's a very simple solution, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make three integer variables and find the sizes of these arrays, right? And we're already given the sizes here, and they're in the method signature in m and int n. So what can we do with that? So int I, we're just going to create another variable which holds these sizes, and they're just the length of these array. Remember, in programming, everything starts at 0 in arrays, right? So when we're talking about arrays, what we want to do is we want to just find the size of that first one. So that's m minus 1. Right? Similarly, for the second one, we can do int j is equals to n minus 1. So those are, well, these are the range of indices that you receive from 0, because we're going to start iterations at 0, and that's going to be a placeholder in that array. So it's going to, we need to do that minus 1. Similarly, we're going to have another variable k, and we're going to do the same thing, but we're going to add, because we're trying to find the full length of the array, we're going to add n plus n, and then we're going to subtract 1, right? And that's going to be equals to k. Let me just spread that out a little bit, right? So we're just going to have a simple while loop that starts from the end of the array and then checks to see which elements are greater. So like, if you've, and I've stressed this in my other video, what was it, the two sum? And a lot of these problems like sorting, or with sorting and arrays and merging things and, you know, finding a rank and all that other stuff, a lot of it lends to skills that you would use or see in sorting type problems, or that involve sorting type algorithms. So when you talk about merge sort, quick sort, heap sort, a lot of them do things where much of the work is iterating, swapping, and comparing, right? So we're doing everything in place, because you see this is void. So that method signature already should tell you that we're doing everything in place. So the space complexity is going to be O of 1. Anyway, what we're going to do is we're going to have this while loop. And that while loop is going to say, while I is greater than or equals to 0, meaning it's not empty, or it hasn't reached 0, rather, not that it's not empty, because we already know these things are not empty, and j is greater than or equal to 0. So basically these two pointers, what are we going to do? So in the bulk of this while loop here, what we're going to do is we're going to have a check that says if, what is it, nums1 I, I'm kind of typing slow because I'm reading off my notes here, is greater than nums2 j. What we want to do is close this bracket. Did I do that right? Oh, no. Boom, close that. What we want to do is we want to decrement k. Why are we decrementing k? Because we're going to start at the back, and then we're going to start adding the larger elements to that back. So just to give you, I don't know. So basically, so for nums1, what we're going to do is we're going to decrement, because we already know it has the space to do that. We already know nums1 has that extra space. So we're going to decrement it, and then we're going to set nums1 I minus minus, or we're going to set that to nums1 I minus minus, basically. So that's just starting at the back, going to this last place here, and then we're adding what that element is there into that last place. So that's why we did the greater than 0, because we're starting at the back. And this is why we needed those sizes here. Then we're going to have an else condition, and that else condition is basically going to account for if nums1 is actually less than nums2, if nums1 I is less than nums2 j, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to take that nums1, and we're still going to do that k minus minus, because we're merging all this into, all you're doing is merging these elements into this whole array in these places where they have a 0 placeholder. So if you're not familiar with like arrays or arrays in Java or in other languages, 0 is usually a placeholder if you haven't set. It's like a default value basically. So if I set an array with, this is what, 6 elements, so 0 1 2 3 2 4 5, and I only set 0 1 2 0 1 and 2, the other 3 elements that are left are going to be default value 0. So that's why there's 0 here, and that's how it works in pretty much most of programming languages. I really don't know all of them, but you know, a lot of them, this is how they work. I know that for Java, C++, and a lot of other languages, they work like this by initiating a default value in the arrays to 0, or some garbage value for some languages. But for Java, it's 0. So what we're going to do now is we're going to do the nums1 k minus minus is equals to the nums2, and that's going to be j minus minus. And all we're doing is we're starting at the end of this array, and we're adding that to the end of this array, which has zeros all throughout for the initial values that weren't set, right? Let me add my semicolon there. And then after we break out of that loop, what we're going to do is we're going to have another while loop, which essentially just iterates over and copies whatever values are left over, as long as, you know, maybe there's some more values in j that hadn't been copied over because the value is actually, or the size of the array is actually large or larger than a nums1. So what we're going to do is we're going to do nums1 k, because we're always going to use this nums1 k minus minus because we're merging it into nums1. So equals, so this is basically iterating through the rest of nums2 and setting those values to those other values that, or these empty sort of these empty initialized values in the array. So once it's done with the first nums1 and maybe there's some values still left in nums2, it's going to add those values into nums1, if that makes sense. Hope I'm making sense. So nums2, and we're going to do j minus minus, and that's it. That's the solution. It's, you know, pretty fairly straightforward solution that involves in place sort of setting of elements. It's about 15 lines. So let's try and run this and see what we get. Great, it's gotten accepted. So, you know, we see the input here. Wait, the input here, you see how I noticed, I said, let me see if I can actually raise this. Can I raise this up? I don't think so. Anyway, let me just try and, all right, so I guess that's a scroll bar. Yeah, so the input here, you have this array, you see that? And there's these values, these default values. Remember, if you don't set them, they'll just be default to 0. And you have these values here. 2, 5, and 6 in the second array, which would be nums2. And you see how it would, at every iteration or every bit in a while loop, it's going to do a comparison, and then it's going to initialize it to whatever value the logic allows it to initialize it to. So basically, if nums1 I is greater than nums2, so basically starting from the back, if that's greater than the nums1 at the back, so this basically takes this array value here, 6, and compares it to this. Obviously, this is greater, 6 is greater, so it's going to set it in that place, and then keep going back and then doing the comparisons, like I said, and the setting of the values, you know. So that's how you solve that problem. It, like I said, the time complexity, since you have two different sides of the arrays, it's O of m plus n. So let me just write that down here. Time complexity equals the O of m plus n. And then the space complexity is equals to O of 1. And the reason the space complexity of O of 1 is O of 1 is because, like I said, you're not creating additional space. You're not even, initializing another array. All you're doing, because of this little bit of assumption that they told us here in the second line, you got to read these assumptions, because that's what used to trip me up on LeetCode. It's like not reading the little intricate details, which actually are very integral and important to solving the problem. So it's just saying that nums1 has enough space to add whatever values are in nums2 into nums1. So you don't need extra space. You're just sort of, like I said, doing comparisons to see if, is this value greater than this value? If it is, set that value to that one, and so on and so forth until you have a sorted array. So that's it for this video. Hope I was able to reach you and teach you and, bless you in some sort of way. Like, comment, and subscribe if you want to see more content like this, and leave a comment or a question below if you're not understanding of something, and I'll do my best to answer everything and get back to you in a timely manner. I check YouTube every day, like multiple times a day, so I'll try and get back to you as quickly as possible. Anyway, guys, that's it for this video. It's a Friday. I'm about to go eat some, I don't know, whatever I can get on DoorDash. And I hope you have a great Friday as well, or whatever day you're watching this video, and I will see you in another video.